Hey friends, welcome back to Thriving Line Healing Podcast, episode 43. Sorry friends, we're staying on the COVID train for a bit. We recorded the last week's podcast and my little brain was as an athlete, completely, not completely. There was a fourth of my brain that was obsessed about it for the rest of the day. So I was like, Dr. Carmen, can we talk about post-COVID, symptoms or not long, I don't like to say long term because that feels like years, but longer side effects, what am I trying to say?
So what are those, post-viral symptoms? What do they look like if they occur in folks?
Right.
Because they don't occur in everybody, but because this virus sort of has that specificity, right? We talked about to those ACE receptors.
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing more and more, and so it's different because I think the conventional medicine world was so worried about what to do with the initial infection and that virus and how to attack that, that once you were clear or you had a negative COVID test, then, or you had antibodies, and they didn't really worry about anything else. But what we're seeing now, long term, it's been about a year that people are seeing this post-COVID viral syndrome, and so that looks like different things, right? That looks like we talked about earlier. This is I think athletes had a tendency to bring this to light a little bit earlier. Is that increased resting heart rate, right? And so that increased resting heart rate can be an issue. So not everybody recognizes the cardiac symptoms that are associated when they're sick with COVID, unless somebody has like an underlying heart condition, right? If they've got AFib or some type of arrhythmia, then yes, it's causing problems. And I actually just heard of a gal this morning. She's in her 30s and has COVID, and it is causing a lot of chest pain for her, and it's shedding light on, I think, an underlying heart condition she didn't know she had.
Mm-hmm.
But now, they're really looking into it because now she has COVID and she has these other cardiac symptoms. But so that's only one component of sort of the post-viral syndrome. We are seeing people, especially if they're a little bit higher risk and had issues with breathing, then we are seeing some scar tissue in the lungs, and that fatigue that has a tendency to stick around a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're calling it post-viral syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, just because we have symptoms after the virus, after we feel better, we just may not be 100%. That doesn't mean we're still infected with the virus. What that means is that your immune system is still cleaning things up, if you will, right? The immune system has been imprinted with the virus, and so it's sent out those immune cells. It's training those soldiers on what to look for as far as those viral proteins are in your body. And then as they are killing that virus and creating this immune response, sometimes that takes a little bit of time for folks. So that may take a month or two after they've cleared the infection for those symptoms to dissipate.
So we were talking about this before we jumped on because I was like, I feel like I'm a little bit more versed than the average person in the health and wellness field, not as much as you as a physician, but I feel like and I was confused as to, okay, wait, I'm day 16. My understanding is that my immune system has already created antibodies, and I thought it already killed the virus, right? Because I have antibodies now. But I think the way you explained it to me, correct me if I'm wrong, is yes, you have antibodies now and you're not contagious, but there's still those, I guess, there's still the virus is floating around in you. Your body hasn't completely cleared it yet.
Right.
Because I still can't smell or taste, right? My athletic performance isn't there yet. So the virus is still in me, but my immune system is clearing it. And this is just going to take a while.
Right.
Okay.
So I will, yes, does that,
Yeah.
you're exactly right. So that after or once you've gotten infected, that 10-day mark, that's when your body says, hey, okay, I have recognized this virus as a foreign entity. I'm going to teach all these B cells to begin looking for this protein. So as it floats around in your immune system, those B cells are getting trained so that they can go out and attack this virus and kill those cells.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I will add a little bit of a caveat because if you guys have heard of other chronic viruses that have caused problems with people, the one that's probably the most common is Lyme disease, right? Or tick fevers, because people get bit by ticks all the time. But if your immune system can mount a response and kill that infective process, then you're free and clear, right? You don't have to worry about it. When it becomes a chronic issue is when your immune system is not robust enough to take care of the infection. So then what that means is you kind of think of those B cells or those immune cells are either maybe a little bit lazy. And so they aren't, they don't completely clean up the virus throughout your whole body. And so, I mean, viruses, their motive is to survive, right? So they're going to find ways to try and survive and continue replicating. So sometimes they can hide within cells or within areas of our body that our immune system doesn't have as much access to. And so that's the importance of making sure that we have a very strong immune system so that we can mount this response, and that drastically lowers our risk of a continued post-viral syndrome, you know, after that month and a half, 2 months after the infection's cleared.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
So then, like, because this episode's geared towards like athletes.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot. I mean, I'm not gonna speak for all athletes, but a lot, like, there's a certain personality type, especially us that are drawn to CrossFit. We tend to be type A. And like, there's this, we've been so conditioned, right? Like, you eat healthy and you exercise and you drink a lot of water and you get 8 hours of sleep. Like, that's life. And that is how you're healthy. And you have a very healthy immune system, and you add probiotics in.
Yes.
Okay. So for us, then logic tells me, oh, okay, you're telling me I need to gear up my immune system. Great. I'll just go work out real hard for an hour because working out fixes things and makes me healthy. And I know you're going to be like, no, because I also know, like, working out hard is a stressor on the body.
Yes.
So you're going to have to, like, help us type A's. Like, what does it look like? Like, what should, in general terms, like, okay, Kim, recovery for you for this and building a healthy immune system and still having an active lifestyle, right? Is like, you can go to the gym, but you're just going to have to, like, pull it down. Like, being active, yes, is good for your immune system, but being too active stresses it and hurts the immune system. Like, where's the balance?
Yes. So sometimes that's a little bit tricky in trying to kind of maneuver that, right? Because working out and having an active lifestyle is important for our immune system, for our health, for our mental health, right? So I'm not going to tell people not to do that, but it's a matter of how intense those workouts are, right? So doing things that are a little not as intense, right? Just trying to cut it down a little bit. Not doing competitions during your recovery period is going to be really important. That's not the time to try and beat your record, right? That's the time.
All of us, our heart breaks just a tiny bit.
I'm sorry. Because it's a different mindset, right? You're like working out and being in this active lifestyle to support your body, but not to push yourself, because you're exactly right. Those harder workouts where you really push yourself, those record breakers, right? You're adding stress to your body, which normally our body handles really well, right? But when we're sick, or when we're in this post-viral syndrome, your body's just not there yet, right? And so if you add that extra stressor by having more intense workouts, or even if your workouts you're trying to meet that level of intensity that you had prior to getting sick, it's going to be a lot, right? So now that so if you do that, then your body's having to recover, not just on the immune side, trying to still look for active infected cells, but then it's also trying to recover and regenerate post workout.
Yeah.
Right. And we are limited, right? This body is not infinite. It's not unlimited. So you only have so many resources to allocate, if you will. So if you use all those resources to allocate to your immune system, you're going to get over your infection quicker. If you try to divide that energy and resources between recovery from an intense workout and the immune system, well, one of those is going to take longer, right? Probably both.
Okay.
So that's our reasoning behind just decreasing that level of intensity within your workouts, but you can still work out. It's just going to look different.
So it's almost like, and I'll say it because I know like your world, like from a fitness world, and I'm a level 2 CrossFit trainer, and personal trained for years. Like, I'll just go ahead and give you athletes advice. Like, it should look, if you're suffering from post viral syndrome, which probably will be like you have loss of sense of smell and taste, your heart rate's higher at a resting rate and it's much higher during the workouts, or you're hitting failure much faster, or you're hitting fatigue, like you notice like halfway through the workout, like you just start to tank, or you're recovering much slower, right? Like it's harder to get your heart rate to drop, to catch your breath, your soreness is staying longer than it used to. Like those are all pretty good symptoms of like, right, post-viral syndrome. So I'm trying to take my own advice. I'm going to give you advice. I'm going to try to take my own advice. Like, just take like a month and a half, 2 months post-COVID to go for the first month, like 50%. If you're a CrossFitter like me, like I'm still going to go to CrossFit, which is high intensity interval training, but I just know that like I got to pace myself at 50%. And all my weight and stuff has got to go 50%. Like, and then after that month, like when I start into my second month post-COVID, like I can go up to 75%. And then at that 2-month mark, like hopefully you can be back to 100%. I mean, what do you feel about that, Carmen?
Yes, so I would agree with that. And sometimes in the athletic world, right, a month and a half, 2 months may feel like forever. But that's really necessary to be able to take that time. Because I may have mentioned this earlier, when your heart rate is high, right? When we say high, that means over 100 beats per minute.
Are you serious? Like, I'm so glad you clarified that. Because I'm thinking when you say high, I'm like 160 to 180. That's high.
So for the average person, so for the average person, usually our resting heart rate is anywhere from 60 to 100, right? For athletes who are very conditioned, that's usually 50 to 60. Those athletes have a meditative practice. I've seen resting heart rates in the 40s. Usually, 50 to 60 is pretty healthy. So the average American, let's say, is usually like 80 to 100 is average, if you will. Okay. So over 100 is when we consider that elevated. Okay. So if your resting heart rate is over 100, that means your heart's working really hard.
Your resting heart rate.
Resting heart rate.
Okay.
Yes. Your heart rate during workout, right? We don't want that. Like I'm seeing people hit 200. That's too much, right?
Well, mine's 160 today. I'll use myself.
Yeah.
That's
so
pretty high for me. That's on my high side.
I was gonna say, I'm telling folks, yeah, over 180, we have problems, right?
Okay.
Between 160 and 180, you're still in recovery, right? So that means you're still in that post-viral syndrome. Because what does your heart rates run on an average workout?
Well, before COVID,
Before COVID.
like my resting heart rate was like 67, 68.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I mean, before I've had it as low as like 59.
Yeah.
Um, and then like high intensity workouts, like the highest I can usually like force myself to get it to is about 160. Like that's redlining for me.
Yes. So if you're working out at 50% and you're hitting 160,
Well,
you
I
still
wasn't
have
working
trouble.
at 50% today.
But if, right? Okay, we'll put a big if in front of it.
Okay.
So if your 50% was hitting that 160, when usually, that's your max,
Uh-huh.
then your heart's working too hard, right? Because our heart's a muscle, right?
Mhm.
And we're constantly using it. It's the one muscle that's always moving. Well, it's not the only muscle that's always moving. So are the ones in our eyes. But if we're hoping that our heart will recover and those infective cells will um, be addressed quicker, right? Then we have to get that resting heart rate to be slower so that the immune cells can come in and do what they need to in between those heartbeats, right? Because as the blood is flowing every time that heart beats, right? It's like this roller coaster that's coming through. And so we need to limit the amount of time that our heart rate is elevated. So that's why we're, recommending lesser intensity within our workouts so that the recovery can be a little bit quicker, because in general, it's going to be longer than it was pre-COVID infection. But that's going to help to give your heart the support that it needs if you're able to keep that rest. So I mean, yeah, some folks are resting heart rates over 100 just in general after COVID, between 100 and 120, right? And we need that to come down a little bit lower. And so by not working out as intensely, it's going to be our biggest way to do that. But also, doing more things like yoga or stretching or swimming, things that still support the heart, and still get you moving, but it just looks different.
So it almost sounds like for athletes, we need to keep a smaller range for a while, right? Instead of me going from like,
Sorry, that was a wordy way of saying that. Yes.
like now, like my resting heart rate's in the 70s, 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of going previous Kim would go from 60 to like 160 red line, right? So most of my work routes were like in the 130.
Yes.
Okay. Now this Kim that's had a resting heart rate at like 70, 80, she needs to keep the range that it's going up and down to smaller. Like I don't need to have 100 beats per minute jump. It needs to be more of like, if my resting heart rate's 80 right now, the highest I really need to go to is like 120.
Exactly. You're just kind of honing in on that heart rate so that your heart doesn't have to work too hard.
It just is helpful, like to give us like actual numbers. So then when because I'm gonna want to go. Like people like me want to like, okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Let's go. This feels like 50%. It really is like, because it just feels less than 100. So then I like, well, it's 50.
Right.
It's really like 87%. But like to have a number to be like, oh, like
You
this is
have a
hard. Like I'm at
quantitative
145 per
measurement.
minute. Like I need to gear down.
Yes.
So I think that's helpful for people like me to like give them this like, here's a range. Just try to stay like in a 40-degree heart rate increase range.
Yes. Yeah. I hope so. I hope that makes sense and it's a little bit easier to identify when you are working out.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I had another question too. I was like, because I don't know, it's just me, but I also like, I go to the gym and I like see all the people that are post-COVID athletes and like, or people that just did competitions this weekend. They did 5 workouts Saturday and Sunday, and they are back at the gym on Monday working out. Like, that's just who we are, right? We're just like,
Yeah.
let's go. I think we need to like really impart, because my brain needs to get this. Because I feel like when you tell me 2 months, like you gotta go slower for 2 months. My brain automatically wants to go to like, that's so much deconditioning.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna get that much, like I'm gonna lose this much strength. I'm gonna lose this much cardio endurance. Like that's a long time. So I think if we can like create a convincing argument, it's like why you're not losing that much conditioning by slowing down and supporting the heart and the organs.
Right.
We need to tell the people why so we can buy in.
All right. So the trouble is if you don't decrease, right, your activity and you don't reel in that helpful range within the heart rate, right, and your heart rate continues to get to be elevated for longer periods of time, you will thicken, the walls of your heart will thicken, okay, because that means your heart is working a lot harder. And so athletes in general, sometimes they can already have a thickened heart wall because of the conditioning that's involved, depending on what type of athletic performance they do. But that thickening, even if it's because of from athletes or because of a cardiac condition, does not make that muscle more efficient. Okay. So in the long run, it makes your heart weaker. And so if it means taking, that 2 months to kind of reel things back a little bit, in the long run, it'll be healthier for your heart than if your heart becomes, that wall becomes enlarged too quickly. Then we have bigger problems down the line.
So then it's a trade-off.
Yes.
Go hard now because your ego wants you to go there and you don't like feeling uncomfortable that I'm going to get fat or I'm going to lose all of my gains, right?
Yes.
You can be hard-headed, Kim, and just go ahead and go. But what you're trading off is that you are risking damage to your heart, which will impact your long-term athletic performance and health. Or we can calm the fuck down. Take 2 months to recover, support our heart.
Yes.
It's okay. Like I probably will decondition a little bit, but because I will go back in 2 months with a healthy heart, I can recover all the things that I lost much quicker and have a longer, healthier athletic career and life.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. So I'm going to encourage you within that 2 months, try different things. Okay. Find different ways, because the things we know that our body, this in conditioning, right? Your body gets used to a certain set of motions, a certain set of exercises, a certain set of weights, right? Over time. So try something different. Right. So this might be a good time to like increase flexibility, right? And resistance. Try yoga, try stretching, try isometric.
Mobilize athletes, like work on your flexibility and mobilization during this time. You want to be better at snatching, which us CrossFit athletes care about. Like this is a great time to work on your mobility.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're using it in a different way. Right. So that when your month and a half, 2 months of recovery is finished, then you've got another layer of your athletic performance. Right. So that can also improve your
overall athleticism. Your performance. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, guys, we're gonna get through this together.
Yes, we can.
Mobility and how to stay in a certain range for the next month. I'm going to tell you how I'm going to do it, friends. So if you're like me, I'm going to write on the calendar 60 days and I'm going to count down until I'm released, just so there's like a vision in sight.
Yes.
I get to go 50%, and this is the day I get to graduate.
There you go.
So, all right. Thank you so much, Dr. Carmen.
Oh, you're welcome.